Hello, you join me here in Shanghai on an absolutely ghastly day, and we're in front of this quite apocalyptic scene behind us. So lucky then that we've got this breath of fresh air. This is the AiWays U5. Hopefully this is not the end of days, and this is fully charged. So let's start with the looks. Now, this is the most challenging part of this car for me. I feel like it's not quite as distinctive or refined as maybe it could be. Now, we saw this at the Chengdu Auto Show, and they had that really amazing concept car which looked stunning. And I feel that this is like 60% of the way there. Now, it looks very modern, it's got LED lights, it's got a very smooth front, which helps with its drag coefficient. The drag coefficient, I think, is 0.29. Which is very good for a large SUV. This is one of the brightest places I've been in, and that's a good thing, especially on a day like today. I'm surrounded by this white leatherette stuff, which is all across the dashboard. But the best thing is that I've actually got my main screen here, which is 12.3 inches wide, does everything on there, very easy to use. But in front of me, I've got 3 screens. So in fact, I've got 4 screens in total here. Now, the 3 screens here make me feel like I'm piloting a starship fighter or something. I'm clearly not, but it's quite cool nonetheless. Now, when you're driving along, so one has the navigation, one has the car and the speed, one has what music you listen to. So all of the information is in one place. Underneath the U5 is a 63 kilowatt hour liquid cooled battery. Now, this is supplied by CATL, one of the biggest battery manufacturers in China and overseas. And now there's one thing that I can give you that I haven't been able to give you for a very long time, and that's the WLTP range. So usually I just give you the NEDC range, which is always wildly off. This has a WLTP range of 400 kilometers, which is not bad for a 63 kilowatt hour battery. And the whole car weighs around 1,750 kilograms. So whilst it's still quite heavy, it's not as heavy as some of the super luxury SUVs that we've driven before. So I really like the steering wheel in here. So it's got this flat top and flat bottom, which makes it feel a little bit more sporty. But this is not a sporty car. So this does 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 7.8 seconds. This is not built for speed, it's built for efficiency and practicality. Anyway, let's take it for a spin. So probably the best part about this car is the price. Now, China, European prices are slightly different, so we'll start with the China prices. Now, this starts at 160,000 RMB to begin with, going up to about 230,000 RMB for the top of the range one, which is what this one is, the Pro version. Europe, it starts at 38,000 euros, going up to about 41,000 euros for the premium version. And you get a lot of car for your money. You know, there's not much on the market at the moment in terms of size for that price. And so that's why I think AiWays have a very good chance of being quite successful in Europe. And this really is, you know, just the first wave of these Chinese EVs coming to Europe, including MG and Xpeng are now in Europe. You know, there's going to be a lot more of these coming in the future, which is why it's so exciting. In fact, these guys have already been in Europe. So they're already being sold in Germany and the Netherlands. This year it's France and Belgium. Started only about 4 years ago in 2016. They're a small startup with only, I don't know, $1.3 billion worth of funding, but they're here and they're going to take over Europe. This car is chock full of features, and one of them is the ADAS system, so the assisted driver stability stuff, which basically has got lane assist. It tells me if I'm falling asleep at the wheel because it's got this little camera here. So if I start nodding off, it'll shake the wheel and alert me that I shouldn't be sleeping and driving at the same time. So it's all here on a very practical and relatively cheap package. What is most interesting about this car is the front bumper, because obviously down here you've got where the airflow goes in to cool the battery and for the interior, but then on this side of the bumper, this is where you charge. So if you push that in, and you've got your two charging ports here, your fast charge and your normal charge. So just hope you don't have a prang and can't access the battery charging part. So this does feel a little bit number than perhaps some of its counterparts, but it's not out there to get the 0 to 60 time in 4 seconds or this, that and the other. You know, it's actually just a very practical, good place to be. So my driving position, for example, I'm very high up. I can see all around me. A couple of small niggles that I do have is that it's a little bit noisy in here above, about 100 kilometers an hour. And I think that's because the glass is quite thin. So I've never really noticed before, but I pulled down the window earlier and it just looked like the glass was a little bit thin. But yeah, it's a little bit noisy, up at speed. But apart from that, for the price, this is actually a really good package. So what they're going for in this car is efficiency and practicality. And what they've done, they've made this front wheel drive only, which is fine. And they've actually made their electric motor about 15% lighter than perhaps some of the rivals. So in that case, it makes it slightly more efficient. They can get more range from the battery, or they can actually put a smaller battery in here. And that's one of the things that they're planning to do, you know, in the coming months and years, is to put smaller batteries in here, because not everyone needs 400 kilometers of range per day. You know, perhaps, you know, there could be a version with 200 kilometers of range, which is perfectly adequate. You know, it's not always about top speed. You know, this does 160 kilometers an hour top speed, which is perfectly fine. You know, I'm not racing in this car, and neither are you probably. And now we come to the back of the AiWays. Now, that slightly awkward design language is continued around here with this rear light, which kind of cuts up, cuts down, cuts around. I'm not such a fan of it, but it does frame the AiWays logo very nicely. Now, the AI in AiWays stands for artificial intelligence. So this does have some self-driving capabilities. So in the back seat, I actually have quite a lot of leg room here, and I feel very comfortable. So don't have much in the way of features. I've got my cup holders, and I've got a elasticated thingy for my magazines here. Not a lot else really, but there is a really big feeling of space in here. Now, it's probably because this leatherette stuff is very white, but I've also got a double sunroof. But today it just means I can see the impending doom through the grey mist. But otherwise, quite like it in here. So it has 1,543 litres of boot space, and the back seats completely fold down, so the whole back is completely flat, which I think is a really nice feature of this car and makes it even more practical for European markets. Oh my word, that's heavy. So is this the most amazing EV that we've ever driven? No, of course not. But it does everything that most people want it to do, and it's practical at a good price. This is not an outstanding car. It doesn't receive as much press as some of its rivals like Neo and Xpeng, but that's its secret weapon. This is a car that I think 90% of us will drive. Yes, it doesn't have all the luxury bells and whistles, but it goes from A to B in a practical manner, and that's how these guys are probably going to do very well in Europe. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode with the AiWays U5. We've got all of the lovely links about Patreon, YouTube memberships, the subscribe button, the notification bell, all around this video. So if you have been, thank you for watching.